Welcome to Messy Christian Mamas. We are three Christian moms with a progressive mindset and loving hearts and minds. We are imperfect humans, but we're all loved in God's sight. At some point, we've all felt like the church and Christianity may not have been for us, but God isn't looking for perfection. He's just looking for you.
We are not experts in Christian theology, and we do not represent any particular Christian faith or church. We are simply here to be authentic, and we hope you join us on this journey.
Hello, and welcome back to Messy Christian Mamas. This is Kendra.
This is Kaylee.
And this is Ashley.
And we are celebrating 50 episodes! Oh my gosh. It's a long time.
Do you have the date that we started?
No.
February.
Try to look it up.
Right.
That was when we recorded, right? But our first episode, I think, came out in March.
I'm gonna look.
Okay. You do that. So,
I'm on it, guys. I'm on it.
Okay.
So we're looking back. This episode is all about looking back at our first 50 episodes and how we have grown over that time, or changed in some cases, I suppose. So, what are your favorite episodes that we've done?
Oh man.
Ew.
I know.
pulled
We're all
the
pulling our
list.
phones out. It's hard to remember
Right.
because we're old and have kids. I'm old and have kids. I shouldn't put that on you guys.
I really liked the Halloween episode.
Yeah, that was fun.
All of our random things episodes, I love.
They're so fun. The episode with Anna
Oh my god, I
was
don't
so
think I've
much fun.
ever laughed so hard in my entire
Right.
life. Oh shoot! I'm playing this.
Little theme
Sorry.
music. Little more theme music.
Right.
Yeah, man, I can't.
Every episode that we've had Melissa on, I have really enjoyed.
Yeah.
And random things definitely, but the
Baptism.
baptism one as well.
She's such a great guest.
Mm-hmm. I've really enjoyed the Proverbs 31 episodes, part 1 and part 2.
Yeah.
I definitely enjoyed digging more into Paul for the Paul episode.
Oh, I love the Pelagius one.
Yeah.
That was, it was such a great play. Just so meaningful to dive into that.
Yeah. We've had so many fun episodes, I think. Yeah, I'm like looking back through, there's just so many.
So we put on our drive. Oh, that was when it was modified, though. I don't even think. March 26th is when we put the first episode on the drive, but that was when it was modified. So I don't even think. I think it's even
March
before
7th is when the first episode launched.
Okay, and February 29th is when we put up our intro.
Okay.
So it'll be, well, it's a leap year this year. We're not a leap year. What is it?
Wink, wink,
there
friends.
is
We
a
record ahead of time.
Sorry. When is it? When is it?
Little peek behind the curtain.
Is it a leap year when it's the 29th or when it's not the 29th?
When it is the 29th.
Okay, so it's not a leap year.
Correct.
So technically, we're recording on the 25th right now. It's the 25th right now. So technically, Friday or Saturday would be our official 1 year, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
But by the time this episode goes out, we are well into our first year.
In the future.
We're a week and a half past it, so.
Yeah, so this will be out on the 14th of March, so.
Yeah, so we're 2 weeks past, so.
So there we have it, friends. Now we all know.
No, won't be the. Oh, yes,
It'll be a week past.
Well, sorry.
March 7th
Look.
was the first episode we launched.
Jeez.
We'll be a week past that.
Jesus help me.
Oh, man.
Jeez, take
It's
the wheel.
in March, and you guys know how ridiculous my March is, so I've just
Yeah.
Yeah. March is
crowded out
crazy.
any additional things that are happening in the month of March.
So we kind of talked about this already a little bit, but who are your favorite guests that we've had on?
Robbie and Shirley.
Robbie and Shirley. were great.
Robbie and
I've loved
Shirley.
all of our guests.
Yeah.
I don't think there's necessarily a favorite that I've had.
I mean, Brenda, excuse me.
Brenda.
Yeah.
So touching.
Yeah,
Our episode.
I've enjoyed all of our guests.
Even Ethan, you guys wouldn't know it because you didn't get to
I
hear
know, we need to have him back on again.
Or Kaylee eating pretzels.
I
the
really
whole
enjoyed
time.
Fritz's episode. Like, I've gotten
Yep.
more out of the services now that I understand liturgy a little bit better.
Right? I know. So many of these concepts I feel like I understand a little bit better when
We
they
need to
pop
have
up.
Ethan back on and just
Throughout the year.
redo the calling episode. Not even have him on for a different episode, just redo the calling
Oh,
episode with
your
him.
sister too.
Yes.
I loved that
Yep.
episode. That was a big shocker to me. I thought it was going to go in a very different direction than where
Yeah.
it went, and I was like,
We should
really
have
love
Ethan
that.
on, but only hear him and not hear us.
Yeah.
There we go.
Just like Ethan's podcast.
I feel like he might enjoy that.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of fantastic guests. Mark, of course, we just talked about with Pelagius. So many great guests, and more to come in the next 50, I'm sure.
Yeah, we've got some really good ones lined up. The episodes that we've discussed doing, I feel like, I mean, we still have some pretty lighthearted ones coming up, but there are a couple that we've discussed doing that are kind of nitty and gritty.
Yeah.
I've often wondered too if we should like ask people if they want to be guests. Like if there's somebody who's like just has a burning topic they really want to talk about, like to let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. Let
There
us
is
know.
an episode I thought about doing like a Q&A one. Is there anything that, questions that have come up with people listening to episodes that they might still have questions on, or, maybe we brought up something that was happening with us in an episode and they wanted to see what happening. So we'll put all of that on Facebook and Insta. And
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great idea.
All
Once we
media
collect enough
outlets.
questions, we can turn those into an episode and do that. So, do you remember any of your favorite conversations we've had? Not just episodes, but
Oh
like
my god, all
specific
the random
topics.
things, conversations.
They really stick with
Anything
you, don't
golden
they?
hemorrhoids
They stick
are, like,
with
going
you.
to be cemented in my brain.
Ashley is wearing a salmon colored sweater. Anything that made Ashley turn the same color as her sweater, I thoroughly
Yes.
enjoyed this.
I was about to say, I don't know if any of these are my favorites. Actually, opposite.
Every time I see Ashley's, because Ashley has what my grandmother would call a miniature golf face. Like she just has the opposite of a poker face.
True.
So anytime
It's
Ashley's
true.
face starts to get like salmon colored, I'm like, ooh, this is a good conversation.
Oh my god.
Ashley's looking for the nearest turning point.
right.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Melissa's brought so many great conversations to the table through the hemorrhoids, the feet,
my
there's
gosh.
just
Yeah.
no end to the.
The trying not to have kids be rebaptized.
Yeah. Yeah.
Forever. Oh, man.
So good. So
I
good.
really enjoyed the conversations, like getting to know people's stories,
Yeah.
like Brenda's. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, hearing her talk about how vulnerable she was during that time, I thought was really.
I feel like all of our guests have done a really good job of being vulnerable on the podcast.
Yeah.
Like, we're so open, but we're pretty open in
Anyway.
general.
Yeah.
So, I feel like... I hope that it's just a testament to how comfortable we try to make people, like, when they come onto the show, that they're comfortable sharing their stories. And we do ask them ahead of time, too. If they're uncomfortable with something, we won't dive deep into it.
Yeah.
But I feel like every guest that has come on the show has shared pieces of their heart and their soul.
Absolutely.
on the
Even
show.
Carol Axford, when she talked about
Yeah.
shirt shopping, that was a really great conversation, too.
And Carla's stories too.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, not to bring Anna back up again, she's just such a favorite.
Yes.
Her being sparkly, her
Her neuro sparkly.
her neurosparkliness. I love it. She was so fun. Yeah, so many great conversations between us, even. I think the things that have come up that we've learned about each other throughout the course of the podcast, too, has been really interesting and help us to know where we need to lean into each other in our real lives a little bit more.
Yeah.
Um,
I really enjoy all of our conversations. Like even like today we were all kind of dragging in. We're like, oh, life is so hard right now. Everything's so busy. And like, I don't feel that at all right now. It just feels like happy and bubbly.
Easy,
Yeah.
right? It's a good thing I'm not standing up right now. I'm sitting down. What episodes surprised you the most?
Oh. I know.
I think
should've
the
printed
Paul
it
one,
out.
like I thought the Paul one was going to be really boring, but then it wasn't. It was like super
Yeah.
interesting actually.
Like, there's so much controversy
Every
with Paul.
one
Yeah.
And not the controversies you think are going to be there with Paul.
Yeah.
Every one of your Help Me episodes just surprises me. 'Cause I'm just like, jeez. Because you don't give us any context ahead of time, which I appreciate, because you get a genuine reaction out of us. You're just like, here's the story, and I'm like, where did you read this? I think we're reading the same Bible.
At like 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, what?
You're amplified.
I feel the same way. Yeah, let's see. What are some of the other bigger surprises? Our next category. What about episodes that made you cringe? Or that make you cringe thinking about them now?
I mean, from a personal standpoint, poor Ethan's episode, just from...
Yeah, there's actually like a lot of like audio things that make me cringe.
Technical
Just trying to learn about it.
aspect. And I was like,
Right.
oh, well, everybody knows how I eat now. That's delightful.
And we were using the fancy mics back then. I just wasn't using them correctly.
I think my Mad at God episode makes me cringe. Like anything where I'm super vulnerable will make me cringe for sure. It's a good thing to be that way. It's just still difficult. I'm trying to think of other episodes that make me cringe. There's not a lot.
There's a couple that, like something I might have said in a way, or something someone else might have said in a way that I listen back now and I'm like, especially if I know a little bit more now, I'm like, ugh, I wish I could go back and just kind of tweak.
Oh, I have those moments for
that,
sure.
But I mean, it is what it is. It's, you know.
I'm a work in progress.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, it's fine.
Ooh, that feels like growth.
I feel,
Yes.
I feel like we addressed
Like better
that a
listening.
lot too.
Yeah.
When we did the follow-up to Proverbs 31, I think that was something that we all very much like admitted that, you know, we went into something very much with blinders on and thinking one thing, and then just through the course of conversation realized it was something completely different, and then just being able to reflect on it even further. Mm-hmm. But I think that's how you grow in faith. I think, you know, if you, you know, I with the 4th and 5th graders, I look at their faith and I'm like, it's nice every once in a while to be like, oh, your faith is so black and white. Like what is wrong and what is right is so cut and dry in your world. And it's not until you're much, much older and you've been through the ringer a little bit that you realize there are lots of shades of gray, not in that way, when it comes to faith and your journey through it. And it's just to realize that things aren't as cut and dry as they seem to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not.
I'm really surprised that we have not run out of things to talk about. Like, I thought that we would, and we haven't. There's just
there's so
much more, right? I think, too, we've grown at, like, logistically and how we all fit together with this. And, like, at the beginning, we didn't really know, like, who was going to do what. We kind of, like, fumbled through that a little bit. And now it's, like, we have set roles of, like, what each person does. And really into a rhythm with that.
Yeah.
I think that's what keeps it going, too. That, like, logistically, we work really well together.
I agree with that. So have we talked about what our roles are on the podcast?
I think we can.
A little bit with Fritz. Maybe that was off air, though. I can't remember.
Maybe it was. I can't remember. I didn't even know we talked about it with friends. I can't remember if it's in the episode or not.
Well, Ashley, talk about what your role is on the podcast.
So I'm the one who's messing up the audio all the time.
No. She's the one that's figuring out how to do the audio for us all the time.
So I'm the tech person. So I record the episodes and I edit them. I take out the curse words.
Sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
You just dip the volume.
I do.
And so you still know what we're saying. It's just not
right
context clues.
So I basically like put it all together. I did the music in the beginning. That's basically it. Editing.
Yep. What about you, Kaylee?
It's a big job, though.
It's a huge job.
It takes time.
We purposely record on the weeks that you don't have the kids for that reason. So you actually have a little bit of, sanity.
Mm-hmm. And I would like to, just a little plug out there, to eventually upgrade our equipment. That would be great for us to have real microphones and have I use a dog called Soundtrap, which is really made for kids. But it'd be nice to press like a subscription to professional recording. Yeah. It'd be cool.
A mixer.
Mm-hmm. And one just like a program like to put on the computer to do the editing.
Would you want a mixing board though?
Maybe.
Yeah.
A small one.
Yeah.
Also, we also record here at the church in a nice little room that we have here at the church. But things are changing, and there are certain programs that are going to be going on during the time that we record. We've had that issue in the past where we've had to record in different rooms, and you hear the stampede of children over us. There is a possibly going to be an actual physical change to this room as well. So just having a space maybe that we are able to have good sound proofing and
I do miss recording at my house.
yeah.
I miss
Which
the,
I think right now we'd be
hang
okay
out.
recording because it's not AC season. It's just the AC season.
All right.
Oh, it's right around the corner.
I know, right?
Georgia.
I just miss lounging on a couch.
Yeah. Okay, Kaylee, tell us about your role on the podcast.
Just to be delightful.
Okay.
That's my job. Keep the conversation.
Sit there and look pretty.
Detours.
You do more than yes. You're famous for them.
Tangents.
Whether it's your job or not.
I can always be counted on for a tangent, a detour, an inappropriate comment,
An opinion.
an opinion. I got you. What else?
Some humor.
Catchphrases.
Yeah, apparently.
Which I don't realize that I have until they're pointed out to me. Although
I know, I'm catching them now.
yeah, well, I catch
Kelly
it now
said it.
that I see him, but I didn't realize I'm wearing the absolutely not hat right
You
now.
are.
Yes.
Someone turned around to
McMahon.
me today and said, the other day and said, well, yeah, absolutely not is one of your catchphrases, and I was like, is it? And then I went back and a couple episodes. I was like, oh my god, I just say it a lot. I also say a lot. And I need to.
I was saying.
Oh, I listened back and I'm like, oh man.
Okay.
My grandmother was crazy.
Redirecting. So tell us about your role on the podcast.
So I post on YouTube.
Yeah.
Usually late by Friday evenings. It'll go on there.
And I post on Spotify.
And Ashley posts on Spotify. She schedules those ahead of time. You don't have that option on YouTube. I wish you did because then they would both be out Friday mornings. I also post on our Facebook account.
I
And
think
our
you can schedule on
TikTok.
YouTube. You might have to do it from your phone or from a desktop.
Ooh. I'll have to look into
Yeah.
that. I'll try it for this one. But I run our Facebook page and I run barely our TikTok page. Our TikTok page really should be run by you because you're on TikTok way more than I am.
Well, not if I'm giving it up for Lent.
Oh yeah. Okay. Maybe after Easter we can make that switch. Because I constantly am forgetting to post. But yeah, that's my.
I just posted 3 weeks of episodes on
That's my
Instagram
job.
this morning.
Well, I didn't realize that I posted Charlie's video on our TikTok. I thought I posted it on my TikTok.
Oh, that's funny.
And so we got all these likes and comments, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep it on there. It's bringing traffic to the page, so
Happy accident.
that's fine. I'll just leave it alone. Technically, she's been a guest on the show as well.
And you
so-
also do backup recording for us.
Do you do backup
You help
recording?
with the scheduling. You really are the scheduling person.
Yeah,
With our topics, what topic we're going to cover.
yeah.
And generally, you're the one that's communicating with guests if we're bringing them on.
I think outside of the church, yeah.
Yeah.
I think whenever we've had Fritz and Carla, we kind of put more to use as you work for the church.
Yeah.
But yeah, Anna, and Mark obviously because he's a personal family friend. But yeah.
Yeah.
I do more than I think I do.
Yeah, you do.
Again, mostly just here for the detours. I do feel like I get really good reactions to the drama though.
You do.
Yeah.
I
Excellent.
feel like at our last segment of the show, I feel like my reactions are what every person who posts on Reddit wants their reaction to be.
Oh, just wait for this one.
Okay.
Just wait for this one. Okay, so
job.
my role on the podcast is I pull our episode. Yeah, I do all of our research and I pull our episode flows together so I can keep our conversations as moving in the direction of the episode as much as possible. I can
as
redirect Kaylee usually.
As much as I allow you to.
And then you also make the graphics.
I make the graphics, so I do the covers for the episodes, and I do our Instagram. I manage our Instagram. So that's my role.
Because I feel like people who don't keep going with podcasts, like that's usually the problem, is they don't have the logistics down of like when you're going to do certain things. Like we really have it down to a science, like a scheduled thing.
Yep, for sure.
Excuse me.
So, how have we grown over these 50 episodes? Have you guys felt like you've had some personal growth over this time?
You mean so you're talking about personal growth, not like as a podcast?
Yeah, personal growth.
Yeah. I feel like we've touched on topics that were hazy to me before, I didn't have a lot of knowledge on, because I'm not a Bible scholar. I have no interest in going to seminary.
Yeah.
So I haven't read the Bible cover to cover. So I think just through conversations with people who have, who know what they're talking about has been really helpful. It's like, to me, like this podcast is like a really great sermon with a good teaching pastor. Like that's what I feel like I get when I'm done with this podcast. I'm like, okay, I feel like I knew more than I did when I went into it. I've never left a podcast being like, well, that was a waste of time.
Right.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. I definitely feel stronger in my faith. I just feel so invigorated by our conversations and like how that has grown my faith. I also feel more confident in talking in public spaces. Like after talking with you guys, I just feel like I'm not much of a talker, but this is like forcing me to talk more. I also
we forced you to recognize like that you're a good person. You have things that you should be proud of.
Thank you. But I think too that like I've become like stronger in not being so much of a people pleaser. I don't know if that's from the podcast, but it's like my growth over this past year has been that way.
Yeah.
And I've definitely learned more about tech, about editing and microphones and stuff like that.
For sure.
Your students ask you certain questions about podcasts, be like, no, guys, believe me, I've had to deal with this now for a year. Trust me.
Yeah, I think design-wise, I've learned a lot more about that over the last year too, and what I do at the church as well as what I do here. That's been really what I do for the podcast has really helped me parlay that into other areas. So that's been very helpful, and I've grown in that area. But I would say when we first started the podcast, I was coming out of this big awakening into my Christianity in a new way than I'd ever been, and so it was a very black and white period of my life, and I am living a little bit more in the gray these days than I was then, and that's a good thing. I think I had to go through some of that.
I think as personal growth is concerned, I think yours has been
Huge.
Right. I think if we compare over the last 2.5, 3 years, even before we started doing the podcast, of where you were then compared to where you are now, like the amount of growth that you have been both forced into and have been
surrendered to.
And then personally chose to do is astronomical.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for saying that.
Like I look at it and I'm like, yeah, okay, I've grown some, and but to me it's been not really so much of a growth because I've been comfortable the whole time. Whereas like,
but you already went through.
I already went through my uncomfortable growth. I have a feeling it's coming consumed, so I'm like trying to avoid it. Like I can see the path ahead of me, and I'm like,
I already went through this. Stay back.
I'm like, I can see the path ahead of me, and I can see that it's gonna repeat itself soon. The rocky path is about to repeat itself soon, and so I'm just trying to enjoy the smooth path as much as humanly possible.
Yeah.
Because I know I'm gonna have to go through some really tough personal growth soon, and I'm just avoiding it like the plague. So I'm avoiding growth. I'm trying to stunt my growth right now. But I do, it's one of these things where when people talk about being comfortable in their faith and what does that mean, you're a constant example that I bring up to people, and I'm like, look, this is where she was, this is where she was forced, and this is where she's ended up through personal. I mean, you fought to get where you are right now. You didn't lay down. I mean, yes, you surrendered, but it wasn't like you laid down your sword and then laid down on top of your sword and was no. okay, I'll just be swept with the wind wherever the wind takes me.
No,
I mean,
definitely
you
picked it up and worked.
Yeah.
You know.
You just turn it. There was a Bible verse. I can't remember what the exact verse is. I'll have to look it up. But we do memory verses with the Sunday school group, and I'm a terrible teacher because I did not memorize it. But it was talking about how to lay down your weapons and to pick up, basically farming tools. To lay down your sword and pick up your scythe, and to lay down your weapons and to pick up, your shovel and your hoe and everything. To basically move from this life of battle and constantly having to fight to one of sowing and reaping and harvesting. And I feel like that's what you've done. I feel like you've surrendered your life of battle to more of this life of production. And I think what you can show so much now, maybe, before it was more of a financial production, whereas now it's much more of a spiritual production. I think that's much more rewarding.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. My life has changed dramatically, I would say, since the podcast began. But Ashley, I feel like yours has too.
Yeah.
I feel like you've also undergone a tremendous amount of growth
And are
over
still.
the last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have kind of an example. It's random, but I went to this party the other.
my job.
Right.
How dare
Right.
you?
She's actually talking.
I'll allow it.
I went to this party the other day, and this old family friend was like, "Why is your hair so dark?" He was like, "You really need to highlight your hair."
No,
And
it looks so pretty.
yeah, like back in the day, that would have made me like fall apart, and I was just like, "What are you talking about? I look great." And like I would have never said that before. I was just like, I don't know what you're talking about, and like I didn't ruminate about it afterwards. I mean, I'm talking about it now, but like, yeah, that's just a totally different person than who I was earlier. I was just like, yeah, okay, you can think that, but that's not true.
Right? I know, when you think about, like, there's so many things that would take, like, a small win to blow me over in the past. And, yeah, it's cool when you get to experience that kind of growth. I mean, it's not that things don't still get to you. I'm sure, like, things still get to me, but...
Right.
Well, I mean,
At the
everyone
same
still
time.
has sensitive areas. People, you still have trauma. Like, I mean, your trauma hasn't gone away. You've been able to heal from it, but it's still, I mean, there's still...
But sometimes you can see it. You
sensitive.
can be a witness to it instead of a victim of it.
It's
Right,
gonna-
like you learn
it's
how to
always gonna be
respond
a
instead of
sensitive-
react.
It's always going to be
Get
a
better at that.
sensitive area.
Say, like, oh, hi, trauma. I haven't seen you
I
in a
thought I
while.
packed you away.
Right.
Guess you popped out the suitcase. Let's put you back.
Well,
Not so
and
good
there's
to see you
like
again.
there's been some things too where people are
Prune
trying
you back. Prune you back.
right, but like I feel like I'm kind of being bullied a little bit into doing certain things, and like when we first started the podcast, that was a major problem, and I was just like falling apart all over the place with that, and I didn't really know how to deal with it, and I'm kind of back in that situation again, but I am not reacting to it the same way that like I'm looking at it totally differently. I'm like, this is how this person's going to act, but that doesn't have anything to do with me.
Right.
You know?
You can't control that. You
Right.
can only control you, right?
Right.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. I think the podcast has been a part of my growth, for sure. I don't know if you feel the same way, Ashley.
Oh yeah.
I feel like it has.
Yeah, and confidence and the strength in my faith.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was always a faithful person, and I was always going to church, but like I just feel so much more like into it
I
now.
think it gives you guys an outlet.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it as moms, you're so just wrapped up in everything that you're having to do for your family, your job, and your partner, and everything around you, that before this podcast, we really didn't have a weekly outlet to kind of just discuss things other than our children or our job or so I think it gives us an outlet to kind of not escapism, but I mean it is a time that we set aside for ourselves to talk about things that interest us, that have nothing to do with what's going on YouTube and or at our jobs or with our tweens, or we're literally getting to be women and adults that have adult conversations. So
Yeah, and even the time that I spend researching is Sometimes I feel like I have no time to do this. I can't get to it. But I always feel like my cup is so full after I finish doing it. I feel like I know more. I feel like it's great preparation for seminary, for a life in the ministry. I feel like it's just, it brings me closer in my relationship to God, you know.
And it's time to like examine deeply, like, okay, what do I really think about this? I don't think I would have gotten to those questions unless we were here talking about them.
Yeah. Like even the idea that I run across things in the Bible that I say, well, what does that mean? I don't understand it. Before, when I've read the Bible, there was so little of it that I've grasped versus now where it's like every once in a while I'm hitting this thing where I'm like, what?
And then you take it to Ashley and I, and we're just like, we don't know. We're just as confused as you are. We have no idea why this was in there.
Sorry for the
I came across, because I'm doing that Bible recap, and I've had to restart it probably 6 times since the beginning of the year, because I'm so bad I do not have a spiritual discipline. But I came across a story today, and I was like, man, this sounds like one of Kendra's, like, help me understand. It was just a random story that I was like, why is this in here? This is not, like, I don't, even with the recap, even with, Tara Cobble kind of doing her recap and talking about it, I was like, I still don't really get why it was in there, but hey, not my book, so.
It's a big book.
It is.
Very large book. So let's pat ourselves on the back, ladies. We've gotten through 50 episodes. We've done some good work. Working for the kingdom of God. It's pretty good gig to have. So, and it is time now, after we've celebrated 50 episodes, woohoo, just saying it again, big accomplishment. Now it's time for messy Christian drama. They're not necessarily Christian. Asterisk. But it's a fun story. So this is coming to us directly from the Relationship Advice subreddit. The user is Throw RAJade94. And this is not an AITA. This is a different kind of story. It's about relationship advice. So, are you ready?
I need all the relationship advice I can get.
Well,
I think we're supposed to give it, though, and I'm, like, sitting here being like, I'm not exactly in the greatest position.
I don't know if it's going to be that kind of relationship advice. So,
Okay.
Here's the
Sidney
title.
Pringle over here.
My 30 female student, 18 male,
Immediately no.
made a super creepy comment. My husband, 35 male, thinks I'm being paranoid. Okay, so here is the story. Trigger warning for stalking, harassment, invasion of privacy.
Oh, great.
Okay. So, I think this takes place in the UK too. So just going to throw that out there, Kaylee.
Okay.
You probably know that.
There's some
it's
weird
history.
spelling in the...
There's some weird...
yeah, there we go.
Okay.
There's some U's that aren't supposed to be.
Right.
Gotcha.
I'm a high school English teacher and have been for a few years. Cranking up my brightness so I can read this better. Have been for a few years. In that time, as a woman, I've been used to teenage boys behaving awkwardly around me sometimes, and pheromones are part of the deal. There have been occasional comments, but generally in the vein of, Miss So-and-so has a crush on you, or Miss, would you be So-and-so's Valentine? It's all in good humor, in front of the whole class or a large group, and is well-meaning. My school throws a January ball for seniors, 16 to 18, which is basically an opportunity to celebrate the start of another calendar year. As it's after hours, not every teacher has to attend, and this year I was asked to chaperone. There is no alcohol permitted, but obviously some of them sneak in hip flasks and so on.
What? Why is that obvious?
Well,
Because they're 16 to 18,
Okay.
I guess.
I mean,
And in the UK, where alcoholism
I
is
don't think that's the kind of
a slippery subject.
I don't think that's the UK.
Well,
They don't
just
have
wait, it
high
hasn't
school
come up
like
yet.
that.
Okay.
During this
Might be
month's
Canada.
ball, maybe Europe, I don't know, anyway, not important yet. During this month's ball, 2 students were huddled at a table in the corner of the hall, not dancing, just keeping to themselves. I know them well as problematic students who have difficulties socially, but also perform poorly academically, so they don't fit in with the popular crowd or the nerdy lot. We have some of these every year: poor hygiene, greasy hair, long fingernails, that sort of thing, which makes me so sad. Just like, footnote.
Little
Breaks my
judgmental.
heart a little bit
Yeah.
here. So immediately I could tell they had been drinking from the way they spoke and smelled, and asked them to hand over any alcohol they had. One of the boys, call him Stuart, started protesting. He said the following, and I'm 100% sure this is what he actually said. Come on, miss. Don't pretend you won't open that bottle of Bailey's when you get home, feet up in your dressing gown, watching the new TV. Give us a break. Now, as soon as he said this, I felt my heart drop into my stomach and got cold all over. You want to know why, probably. It sounds
She's got an alcohol problem.
not a big deal. So here's why.
It sounds very specific.
I had just bought a bottle of Bailey's Irish Cream for myself the weekend before the dance. 2,
Oh.
I am in the habit on nights where I don't have much marking, planning, and want to treat myself of having a bath and watching a movie or series in my dressing gown. 3, my husband bought a new television over Christmas. I asked him how he knew those things, and he feigned ignorance, basically saying it was a lucky guess. I was so shaken that I left them, and a short while later, they both left. But that night, I could barely sleep, and my paranoia kept growing. I simply cannot believe that he could have guessed all 3 those things. 1 maybe, but no way all 3. My husband is away for work currently. I phoned him and told him about it, and he basically downplayed my concerns, saying I probably mentioned those things to my class at various points, and this student has just remembered it.
Hey guys, let me tell you a story about
But
I got
I
some
would-
Baileys.
I would never mention those things. I just
Random.
wouldn't, and I'm sure I haven't. I've become a little more skittish at home when I hear noises. I only live in a small house, but when I arrive home from buying groceries, I check every single room and cupboard before I lock the doors. I've also arranged to have the locks changed. When cars stop outside the house, I turn all the lights off and peek at them through the blinds. I'm having trouble sleeping. In class, the student is quiet and the same as ever, not completing homework assignments, distracted in class. My husband is growing increasingly exasperated and worried more for my mental health than the possibility the student could somehow know details of my personal life. I mentioned it to my supervisor as well, and she also basically reasoned that I had either misheard what he said, it was a coincidence, or a combination of the two. What's the play here? I'm seriously freaked out and don't know how to even begin putting this to rest. Here's an update. I wasn't expecting this post to receive so much attention. I'm really grateful to so many people who have validated my concerns and helped me develop a plan of action. I got home a little while ago and am going out shortly with a friend to try to rule out Bluetooth and Wi-Fi devices with my neighbors. After that, the 2 of us will try and conduct a meticulous search of the house for any concealed devices using the lights out phone camera trick some people recommended and some other tips I found online. Just to clarify a couple of points that I've seen raised a few times. 1, dressing gown is a really common term here in England
Oh, I don't know what kind of school she's teaching at then.
for what Americans might call a robe. It's absolutely common parlance, something like that, whatever they say in the UK. Here, most people I know would associate a robe with something a wizard might wear. 2, in terms of it being a lucky guess, if he had just said, relax with a glass of wine, I might have assumed so, but the dressing gown comment, plus the Bailey's comment, when I had just bought a bottle, and the explicit mention of a new television, which I am 100% certain I did not misinterpret. These things make it so much harder to write off as a coincidence. As far as social media goes, I have Instagram, which is set to private under my maiden name, and my profile picture is not of me. I am not in the habit of connecting with former students. I only have 3 who have all gone on to study English at university and have used me as references. I also have a Snapchat, which I use only with my husband and very close friends. I have posted nothing about my new television, and I also don't think I've mentioned this to colleagues, let alone students. Certainly, I said nothing about the Baileys I just bought. So some relevant comments on this one first, and then we'll talk about it. Is it possible that you or your husband were observed buying the new TV in the Baileys? The student's parents could have seen either purchase and said, oh, this person just got a new LG 65-inch. I agree you should do a sweep for cameras or ask a techish friend for help, but that would necessitate figuring out how the cameras got there, which opens up a larger conspiracy. She says, how can I do a sweep for cameras? Genuinely want to know. Then they say, well, I'm not in IT. I'm in IT, but not that area. If there was a camera, logically, it would have to be transmitting, so probably use a Wi-Fi connection. I've read that skimmers and gas station credit card payment units can send data through Wi-Fi so the bad actor doesn't have to retrieve it. That Wi-Fi would show up on your phone if you look at various Wi-Fi offerings on your phone. You'd have to take into consideration closeness of neighbors' houses and their routers, so it's a guess. How a camera got there is another puzzle. Occam's razor says to look at the easier likelihood. So can someone be looking in your window as you sit Bailey's in a nightgown and also noticed your recycle bin with a discarded LG TV box recently? One more comment. I'm not a huge techie, but I've been around the block a few times. Your husband is being naive, and while I appreciate people trying to encourage you that the surveillance is happening via Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, and of course investigate those avenues, please also take seriously the idea that you are being stalked. Even stalked for fun with no malicious intent. I mentioned in a separate comment the idea of a dog, and there are also many DIY ways of alarming or otherwise reinforcing your house that don't involve tech, if you look on YouTube, for example, hoping you stay safe. And there's a final update. But before we get to it, ladies, what do we think about this?
Okay. Depending on where she is in England, there is a very high possibility that it's a very small community.
Yeah.
And everybody does know everybody else's business. Like the town where my family lives, like you run into people all the time going to the grocery store. You are constantly having to walk by people's, and they walk a lot. Not a lot of people drive in England. Yeah. So you're constantly walking past. So there is a very high chance that if she's not closing her blinds and this student lives on the same street or near, kids are walking around all the time there. So there's a high possibility that maybe, yes, he's purposely trying to go by her house, but there's a possibility that he's seen her out shopping. He's walked by the house and has seen this off cuff. There is a very large possibility. I think a lot of this is going to, like, with a stereotype based on how she described the
in the beginning. That's what I was thinking.
So I feel like she pretty much set herself up to thinking this.
Right.
So I think if it had been one of the popular kids that is like constantly out and like around and she has more of a off-cuff relationship with, I think if one of them had said something like that, she might not have taken it as threatening. But because she already seems trepidatious about this kid, that she's kind of like already, painting him as...
Vilified him.
Yeah.
But however, it also makes me think of these two books that I read in my 20s. I really liked it. One's called Blink and one's called The Gift of Fear. And they basically just talk about how, like, your gut and your body knows when you're in danger before your brain does. Right. And so, like, whenever you feel like you might be in danger, you probably are. And don't try to be nice and don't try to be polite or whatever, that, like, you need to get out of the situation wherever you're at. Yeah. And also, growing up, like, I knew so many friends that were stalked. And me too, like, in my 20s, like, just, unfortunately, it's, like, something that happens a lot.
A lot more than people think that it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel a similar way, Ashley, that, like, if you feel like you're in danger, like, there's something to that gut feeling that you have to honor. Mm-hmm. I think if you feel...
I think what she's doing is honoring it, but the fact that she's still...
Yeah, harping on it.
She's still harping on it.
Like, more than one instance, too, I think, that she's...
Yeah, like,
she's, like, out of that situation
now. All of this
also.
is being based off of one comment that this kid made. Mm-hmm. And you've done all this...
About, like, those three pretty specific things.
I understand that. However, you've searched your house... You're taking...
Right, change the locks. Now close your blinds. Like, it's going to be okay.
You've taken all these steps. If you're still paranoid and you're not doing anything more about that paranoia, it's now on you. Like, you talk to your supervisor. If you still feel uncomfortable, then you need to go above your supervisor.
Well, but again,
I feel like more of this...
What do we think about the husband and supervisor?
I think more of this is...
I don't like the writing it off, and I know that when people are really, really are stalked, that it's written off over and over and over again, and that's not a great feeling, and can lead to real danger.
If she hadn't described the kids the way she did.
Right, that's what gets me.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I'm just thinking, like,
as you're
building yourself up for it. Like, you're kind of
I don't
Build
ever
yourself
see like
up for
students
this.
that way. It's like my students, like I'm gonna love them for who they are. I'm not gonna like judge somebody
I've
because
never,
of the way they
written
look or
off. Never written
their
off
hair
a
is
kid
greasy or
as,
whatever.
Like, yeah,
Poor
as,
hygiene.
like, this is basically
Yeah.
the kid that becomes the school shooter. Like that's what she's pretty much
Kind of what
describing
she
him
was,
about.
it felt like she was
As
saying.
it's basically so that she can like it almost is like she's able to justify this behavior. Like, oh, I feel this way because the kid looks like this and is a poor student. And I'm like, some kids are just awkward teenagers.
Yeah.
Like, not every quiet kid who is a poor student is a serial killer.
Right. So do we want to hear the final update?
Yep.
This was just from the end of January. I wasn't going to post an update here, but the number of worried people who have reached out to me made me reconsider. After a thorough search of my house,
Vested.
I found 2 devices.
How did they get in?
They seem to be camera devices. I don't know if audio is included. One of them was in the smoke detector in my bedroom,
Oh my gosh.
while the other
Oh,
was
so
concealed
creepy.
in the wall of my living room.
Wow.
Looking at an old picture of my bedroom, it looks like the smoke detector itself has changed very slightly. I think that the new one is a device in itself, which the culprit somehow switched with the old one without us noticing.
Oh, that's creepy. Yep, gift of fear.
Yep. The matter has now been referred to the police. If it wasn't for so many of you taking me seriously and giving me practical advice, I wouldn't have had the courage to check, especially given my husband downplaying the concerns. He has been very apologetic and is coming back from his work trip early, but I've asked to spend some time apart
Work trip.
and will be staying with my parents for a while.
Well, the sad fact about stalking is that like nothing can really be done about it. Like if you go to the police or whatever,
they can't do anything
They
until
won't do anything until there's
your stalker
physical
does something
violence.
to you. Yeah.
Which is so messed up.
So
It
she
should not
said,
be that way.
I'm
Well,
glad. Oh, go ahead.
Are they able? Well, I don't know. Maybe this is me watching too much CSI. Is there a way that they're able to track the devices though? Because if they are using Wi-Fi and they are like being transmitted, there's got to be something they're being transmitted to.
I don't know. It's been referred to the police at this point. She says a little bit more, but nothing specifically about that, I don't think. So she says, I'm glad I raised the issue with the head at my school and a couple of others, as there's a paper trail, another suggestion from the thread. Needless to say, I'm completely shaken to my core, and I have the most revolting feeling of my privacy being invaded. I have no idea how many people have been involved in this, but phones have been taken from students, and we should have more answers soon. I won't be making any more posts or updates. Thank you again to everyone for affirming me and making me feel sane.
And what stinks about it, like stalking is violent. So like making someone feel afraid, even if they don't put a hand on you, that is still violence. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
I know, it's mental health violence, right?
What constitutes stalking? Like, how would you constitute stalking? Because I'm thinking white girl stalking is a little different. Like, what I do,
Wait, what?
that's like slightly different. Like, white girl stalking, like you meet someone and you immediately like do a background check on
That's
them.
not stalking.
You check all their
Well,
Facebook.
it's different with dating apps. Like you have to with dating apps. You gotta
Yeah.
like back,
So I feel like
check up on people.
when
But-
people like when a friend goes out on a date and they're like, I don't know how I feel about this. I'm like, give me their name. I will find out everything.
I got a Peach Court account and everything.
Well, I used to date someone who was a private investigator, and he gave me access to his software, and I have abused that privilege, like heavily abused that privilege. I have found out things that I didn't need to find out. That I need to find out that I'm like, oh, like closed records, and
Oh,
I'm like,
that's
that's not
fantastic.
great. Like
I
these
love that.
these were private for a reason. I feel bad now.
So stalking, it says, according to RAINN, RAINN, which I don't know if it sounds like it's... this is Department of Justice definition of stalking. Stalking is a pattern of repeated and unwanted attention, harassment, contact, or any other course of conduct directed at a specific person that would cause a reasonable person to feel fear.
Yeah, so the instance
so
I'm
you
talking
know
about when
what
I
I
was in
do.
college, yeah, so the guy who was giving me trouble, he would call all the time and leave messages, and if I ever picked up the phone, he would just like do just strange, weird things. Unfortunately, we worked together, and he would like show up like wherever I was like coming out of my apartment or whatever. And then I got to work, he would like corner me and kept like asking me out over and over again, but it like escalate into like worse and worse things. And like finally, unfortunately at first my boss was like blaming me about it. He was like, stop talking to him. I'm like, I am not talking to him. And at Mercer, actually a whole bunch of people were like, well, it's something you did. It's something, it's like you're wearing something provocative or you're flirting with him. And I was like, I told him to F off. Can I get, is that flirting? It doesn't sound like flirting to me. But yeah. But eventually the boss finally did say that like one of us had to be fired. And I was a great worker, so he fired the other guy. And, like, he was a good worker, too. But I was like, the fact that we had to go through all those things, I was just like, oh, my gosh.
It's wild.
Yeah.
It's
so unfair.
The opposite of wanting to get caught, so I have to go out of my way.
I don't think what you're doing is causing fear for someone
Although
else.
some of them should be afraid, because some of the stuff that I have found out that I'm like, no, you can't date my friend, I'm sorry. No.
But you're not doing it to them.
No. Well, I've shown up on a date before to pull my friend out of a situation.
Oh,
wow.
Due to something I found out.
Wow.
Like, she asked me to look into it, so I figured she wouldn't go out with him until I reported back, because that's a courtesy. But she did anyway, and I was like, you're an idiot, where are you?
Yes.
Because she did text me, and she was like, because you know you do the thing with your friend, like, you probably, like, when you go out on a date, you, like, make sure people know where you are. Mm-hmm. Because you want, you're safety.
I should start doing that when I go out with Brad.
Yeah. Kaylee, I'm going to Costco at 5:23. I'm not home by 7:23. I need you to show up. Get a day pass. There's a problem. No, you just like, I tend to drop a pin of my location. Like, I usually send it to Nikki because she's scary. And I have a couple of like male friends that I'll if I'm going on a first date, I won't give it to my dad because he'll show up. But I'll drop a pin of the location and say the name of the person I'm going out with, because you just don't know. But she had told me where she was and when she was gonna be there, and I found out he was still married and had,
there you go,
like, this his partner had been in the hospital for mysterious reasons. She said she fell.
Wow.
It was not an injury conducive to a fall. It'd be a harder way to get a dysentery with a fall. So I showed up. I immediately yanked her from the table, and when he started to have an issue, I just showed the file, and he immediately backed down.
Yep.
So it's one good thing about being my size.
All right, and with that, we're going to wrap this episode up. A look back at 50 episodes again. That's such a huge accomplishment. So, well done, ladies. This has been quite a journey with you. I'm excited for 50 more.
Me too.
Yeah, and where the next 50 will take us, who knows?
God help us.
God help us.
Right.
Lord be with you.
And
Also with you.
Father, thank you for all of the wonderful blessings you bestow upon us. You've given us the privilege of friendship and community and opportunities to grow and to learn and to deepen our faith with you, Lord. Thank you for all of those blessings, Father. We love and appreciate and praise your name. In your holy name and the holy name of your Son. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Messy Christian Mamas. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, and Instagram. Until next time, embrace the mess, share the love, and shine your light bright, my friends.